and warm welcome to all. I'm Ruth Nelson, founder of GoKIds Youth Sports ChatBOX, and I'm excited to be your host for our monthly In the Know series, where we spotlight game changers, thought leaders, and rising stars making a difference in youth sports and beyond. Joining me as co-host is David Delozier, now back in Big D. He's currently coaching at Prestonwood Christian Academy and has joined the coaching staff at Skyline Juniors Volleyball Club. David was part of the very first class of certified GoKids Youth Sports skills trainers, and we're thrilled to have him back with us for an exciting conversation. We're excited to welcome back a returning guest and a true leader in the sports community, Senior Director, Strategic Partnerships at NCSA College Recruiting. She brings a wealth of experience and a deep passion for helping families and student athletes successfully navigate their journey through sports and college recruiting. In her new leadership role, she is positioned to support and empower even more athletes nationwide, making a meaningful impact on how young players and their families approach the path to college athletics. Tonight, we're especially eager to hear her reflections from the 2025 U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Hall of Fame induction honorary legend Flo Hyman. She will share her powerful experience from that evening, including conversations with former Flo's teammates, Diane and Sherryl Moore. Her insights into Flo's enduring legacy and what it still means for our today's generation of athletes will no doubt inspire and enlighten all of us. Please join us in welcoming Coach Sue Weber. Sue, we're excited to have you.
Well, thank you, Coach Ruth. I always am like, what do I call you, Ruth? Legendary Ruth Nelson. But it's so awesome to be back on. We were talking, right? It's been a couple of years. So yeah. Time flies when everyone's having fun.
Yeah, well, we have to keep reminding ourselves of that. But before we start, David has questions. We're going to have a special sizzle and highlight that you've already seen probably. But if there's anything that you want to spotlight as we go through this, because it's like driving in the toll road in Dallas. It's pretty quick. Yeah. So this gives you, and this is, we all witnessed the museum in Colorado Springs, which was unbelievable.
This is amazing. Being on stage, it was such a great experience. I'm so glad you invited me to go and that I could go.
Well, we're excited to hear more about things that you've been up to, and we are ready to get going, as I know David is.
Absolutely. Well, Sue, it's good to have you back, and it's good to see you again, and welcome back. First question, you've had an incredible journey from collegiate volleyball to coaching and now helping student athletes navigate recruiting through NCSA. What's one defining moment that shaped your purpose in sport?
Yeah, one defining moment, right? That's the hard question to go to. Right. But there's so many, especially like I've coached at littles, like 13-year-olds, 9-year-olds, and I've coached in college, so there's 23, 24-year-olds sometimes when they're seniors, and it's such a crazy opportunity, really, to be able to coach that wide range of athletes, and now even helping with parents now these days. But I think one of my go-to memories, or something that's really impacted me, and I felt like this is why I coach. It was one of my former athletes wrote me a thank you note. I was moving on, to a different job, and she wrote a thank you note and was like, I really treasured all of our practices and like everything that you taught us, but not just in volleyball, but in life. And I was like, wow, that's, making that impact. And she wasn't a starter. She's a very role player. But I think, I do have my master's in teaching from Olivet, which, Coach Brenda there. And how do you coach everyone? How do you include everyone? Coaching the all-stars on the team are pretty easy sometimes, but how do you make that impact to the 12th player, to the 13th player on the roster? So having that thank you note and having that impact on this athlete's life, that was kind of like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So that was really cool.
That's awesome. As a former collegiate standout, how did your injury and recovery journey inform your work ethic and leadership, both on and off the court?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I did tear my ACL my sophomore year of college, and I had earned a starting spot at University of Illinois. So I was like, getting my little bit of playing time freshman year, and then I really earned that on that starting role, and then went down with an injury. So probably the worst thing for a very, very competitive person or athlete to have to sit. It's like worse than the rehab, worse than everything, because you want to be out there competing and helping your team. But I think, I did have a little setback with rehab. I got an infection in one of the portholes, and it's just like you can't speed through it, right? You can't cut corners. You have to do it the right way. The measure twice, cut once type of mentality out there. So I think that injury really, I had that instilled from my parents of doing the right thing and doing it the right way. But for sure, you have to, it kind of reinforces that mentality of do it right, take your time, do your thought process, and then, don't cut corners for sure.
Okay, so you injured, you rehabbed, then what? You had 2 more years eligibility.
Yes. So 2 more years eligibility. I had played too many matches to redshirt that year.
Okay.
So back then it was a percentage of how many games you had played that year.
Yeah.
If you could medically redshirt. So I played too many. So that year was already done. Then I played my junior and senior year and started. And I decided not to, we didn't redshirt my junior year because I was already back and ready to go by spring.
And no COVID year for sure.
No, a little before COVID time.
Okay, so were you on Illinois' team in San Antonio in the Final Four?
No, I'm older than that too.
Oh okay.
Yeah, so okay. we got to, we probably were 3rd or 4th in the Big Ten. My freshman year, we played Florida in the second round, and Mary Wise's team beat us. And then my junior year, we played Arizona in the second round, and they beat us and got 4th.
So you played for Mike Hebert all 4 years?
No, Don Harden.
Don Harden. Oh.
Yep. So Don was Mike's assistant, and then when Mike went to Minnesota, Don took over, and that's when I came in.
Okay. So you've coached at multiple levels and now guide families across the country. What's the biggest change you've seen in how youth athletes approach the recruiting process? Even though you're in a different role now, in partnerships, you still went through this process with NCSA.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. For the first 5 years at NCSA, I was working with the families that enroll and have a membership, and we really, talked preferences, and I have to watch your video. I have to see how good you are, basically. And from when I started coaching in 2007 with Brenda at Olivet, kids were sending DVDs, right, of video. There was no Huddle. There was no YouTube. There was no links that you could just click on. We were getting DVDs in the mail.
Right.
And I'm sure when I was being recruited, I was sending VHS tapes.
Yes.
In the mail.
Yes.
So that obviously video has been a huge, I would say, technology-wise, just in general, right? There was no online presence. There was no social media, YouTube videos, anything like that. So the quality and quantity of video and film that's out there is great, but it's also overwhelming as a college coach. You have so much to watch off the field. You need you need to go and watch these kids play live to really get a better sense. But really, people from Hawaii or international or, that are farther away actually kind of level the playing field because the video is so good now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what advice would you give to young players who may not be the most physical dominant, but have the drive to compete at the collegiate level?
Yeah, and I think that drive, that word is very important in this description too, because the very good athletes, they're going to get seen, they're going to get their exposure. But there's some kids out there that are tweeners, is kind of what I call them, right? They're 5'9", 5'10" as a hitter, or you're a libero, or, there's a lot of defensive specialists out there. But if you have the desire, the dream, the drive to play in college, just stay persistent. There's so many, even with NIL and all these transfer portals and all this stuff, there's always coaches looking for good players and good people. So if you're a good teammate, you have that drive, you have that determination, there's going to be a fit for you. You just have to kind of look, you have to stay persistent, make the emails, send the emails, make the calls, visit the campuses, but stay persistent.
Don't you think that kids have to engage more in accepting the idea that they're going to have to do more work if they're going to be recruited?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many players out there. And like I just mentioned with the video, it does level the playing field. So a coach could be looking at someone local, but they could also be someone like 7 states away. And if that 7 states away person is trying harder, right, and doing more work, on the flip side, as a college coach, trying to decide who to offer a scholarship or even just a position to, we want you to say yes too. So if we're not hearing from you or we don't know, there's that anxiety too on the coach's side.
Yeah, because I think that you get more of the persistent side with the parent being persistent than the athlete being. And in a way, it's kind of good because it's helping the athlete to understand it's your responsibility, but if you're not going to do it, you're not going to have the options, or you may not have any options.
Yeah. I always kid because I'm not recruiting your mom. I'm recruiting you to go play and pass volleyball for me. So I need to know if you're going to fit into the culture here.
Absolutely. Okay, David.
How do you balance the emotional side of recruitment, like parents' expectations or athletes' stress, with helping families stay focused on the long-term fit?
Yeah, and luckily I have, when I was with, as the recruiting coach role, we had 10 other recruiting coaches, and now there's even more volleyball recruiting coaches. So if I hadn't been through it, such as like my injury, that's a tough one to have conversations with families, I tore my ACL and now I'm so behind in recruiting, and high anxiety and high stress there. But, there's high school and club politics sometimes, there's coaching changes, there's a whole bunch of things that sometimes you get blinders as a family and you're like, it only happened to me, but actually it's happened to a lot of people out there. So I lean in on those experiences or my fellow, coworkers' experiences, because if I haven't been through it, somebody else has. And I think that comfort or that knowledge that they're not alone, or they, someone else has had a success story after an injury or something like that, it's helpful for them.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, now let's shift gears here a little bit. You, part of that sizzle reel, you went to the Hall of Fame to celebrate Flo Hyman, and she was honored. You recently attended that induction for Flo Hyman. What did that moment represent for you and for the sport of volleyball?
It was a once in a lifetime experience. I was so taken aback that Ruth was like, yeah, come on, like, we got a spot for you to come. So it was just extremely humbling to be among the greats. These are like the 1% of the 1%. But also inspiring. They're humans. There is a very human aspect to hear someone talk and have Ruth speak to you in the whole room, and meet Anita DeFrance. Like, that was amazing. Like, what she's done for women in sports and just like everyone that was there, it's such a great opportunity. So I think one of the quotes that stood out to me was Marla Runyan. I'm going to say her name wrong, but she was a Paralympian, and she said, if limits exist, they only exist in your thinking or in your head. And I was like, wow, I need to get going on some things here. So I think it was inspiring, but also a humbling experience. Absolutely.
Why don't you say a little bit about her? Because a lot of our viewers might not know who she is.
Yeah, so Marla, she competed in both the Paralympics and the Olympics, and she is legally blind. So I'm like, she's a runner, she's a track athlete. So I think she was middle distance, is that correct, Ruth? 400 or 800 or something like that. And 400 meters. So she finished a race once, but she had lost the pack. So she was describing how she finished, but she didn't know if she was first, second, or third to qualify for the Olympics. And the umpire or the referee, whatever they're called, was like holding up 3 because she was third. It was a funny story, but I was like, holy cow, that she can be an Olympian and a Paralympian and medal, I believe. Like it was
5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 times. And she had her CNI dog with her.
Yes. Yes.
Unbelievable. Okay. So you've also had a chance to meet and connect with 2 of Flo teammates, Sherryl Moore and Diane French. How did hearing their stories bring back Flo's legacy to life in a new way for you? But first, talk about how you know about Flo.
Yeah. Well, first, like the Women's and National Women's and Girls in Sports Day, right? That's kind of how everybody, I feel, a lot of younger generations, I suppose, would get to know who Flo Hyman is, because that day is represented by her. Like it was named for her. So I think that's probably the first introduction to it. And then that she passed away at such a young age in the middle of her prime, playing overseas. So it's just kind of like you see that day in February, and then you build on it and understand the history of what she brought.
How about Brenda's experience? I've got her picture up. Now you got to tell that.
Well, Brenda is my first mentor ever, probably in the world. So she was my club director when I was in 8th grade. So she was like, yes, come on over here. So play volleyball for me. And then she and Don Harden knew each other very well. So she helped with the recruiting process. And then when I came back from school and being in the business world for 5 years, I went to coach for her at Olivet Nazarene University. But Brenda's from Alabama, and she played at Alabama, and she played against Flo. And Brenda's not very big lady, right? She's very petite. She's 5'3". She's better, yes, defensive player. And she's like, I would just get out of the way of Flo's spikes. There's no way that I'm going to sit in there. And I think she subbed herself out one game.
Yes, she did. And Stephanie Schroeder was coaching the team, and I was coaching the Houston team. So yes, she played her a number of times. So Brenda told so many stories about, I got knocked once and I didn't want to be in line with the ball again.
She subbed herself out.
All right. So now you got to meet 2 of her former teammates.
Yeah. Just heard so many more stories like that. Right. And I think, you can, hearing stories about someone from firsthand experience humanizes them. I've never met Flo, obviously, right. But, and she can seem untouchable, or almost like imagining her. But hearing the stories of preseasons and, Flo would do it that way, or she's such a jokester, right? So like just hearing those stories from Diane and Sherryl, and you, coach, it's just, it's inspiring. Like I mentioned earlier, it's just kind of like, wow, she's done so much, and she did it the right way, and she touched, she made such an impression on everyone. And I think that's something I would love to do. That's inspiring to me.
All right. So could you just explain a little bit what you and Sherryl are doing in the picture?
Oh, I'm like, what am I looking at? Yes. So we got the tour of the Hall of Fame Museum, or the Olympic Museum, right? Uh-huh. And what we're seeing here is that the 1980 Olympics, the United States boycotted it because it was in Russia. So Flo's name there. That's what we're pointing at. But so is Diane's name. Like everybody that was on a 1980 Olympic team, his name is on this wall to dedicate their significance of being on that team. So that's what
it was great for them to actually highlight that wall that way, because many people have forgotten about the 80 Olympic athletes that could have won gold medals.
Yeah, they could have medaled and had an experience, like such a great experience, and did not get to go. And it was a very large wall, right? It was right around the corner. The whole
exactly.
Hall. It was great.
All right. So was there a particular quote, you gave us one on Marla's, or speech or moment during the induction that captured Flo's Hyman spirit or reminded you of the kind of leadership we still need in today's game?
Yeah, and you know me, Ruth. I got my notebook out. You probably were like, "Well, there's whoever with the notebook." But I wrote down several, and when I was going back through my notes, Susan Hagel, who was another Paralympian went to University of Illinois. I was like, I'm a Sue from Illinois too. But she said no athlete at any level achieves their success alone, which is very true. The 2004 women's basketball wheelchair team said, I wrote down, together we rise. Again, togetherness, right? And then Allison Felix, who was another track star.
5-time Olympic gold medalist.
Yes. Lessons from losses are powerful. And I thought that was, don't be too afraid to fail. Like if you're the best at everything all the time, like that's boring. So don't be afraid to fail and fail fast. But I think my favorite quote is from Flo. When I was looking up and researching her more, is to be true to oneself is the ultimate test in life. And it goes on to say, life is too short and precious to be dealt with in any other fashion. And it's so true in these days. There's so much social media, there's so much airbrushing and AI and all this, what we were talking about earlier. So I think it's even more important nowadays to stay true to oneself. So I really like her quote there.
Well, that poem she wrote prior to her death, and that was put on her program at the ceremony, her funeral. And it's interesting, when the Washington Post, I don't know if you ever got to see the pictures that they had a picture of the casket, of them lifting and carrying the casket. And there were at least 10 limousines. Anybody who was who's who was at Flo's funeral. And it was unbelievable how many people in Hollywood and LA knew who Flo Hyman was.
She was, yeah.
But besides, the fact is that she was in the movie. The movie wasn't released until 1987, and she passed away in 86. But if you haven't watched it, you can go on our website. I've already put it up it's a YouTube video of the movie. Awesome. So she was a knife specialist in the movie.
She really could do it all, right?
That's exactly. All right, David, you better get in here and ask these questions.
I know, we'll start. We'll go on.
Well, Sue, thank you so much for sharing that. That's awesome. I didn't get to go, but I just really love hearing how your experience was and getting to learn all about Flo. Let's shift gears here back to your current role at NCSA and NCSA powered events. How are you helping families prepare not just for recruitment, but for long-term success in life through sport?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, when I started, I was very kind of focused on one-on-one help with the families. So if you were going through preferences and whatever else, and just your personal journey. But as COVID hit and we were kind of trying to get all this information to more people, we started doing workshops and Zooms and having guest speakers. Ruth was on a couple years ago now, but we'd bring speakers on or talk just about the general process. And then 2 years, maybe 3 years ago now, we joined forces with IMG Academy, which is a boarding school down in Florida, but they also have like the Gatorade science lab is on their campus, and they have so many awesome, resources and great coaches. So now we're bringing mental performance, nutrition training, life skills, and it's all on an app. So it's like it's something you log into and you have access to podcasts and articles and like little pep talks and stuff like that. So we're just expanding as youth sports evolves. And I think mental performance for sure is like one of those hot topics, I guess you could say now. So we're evolving, and me personally are evolving because I have access to these things now too.
What sports are there at IMG?
What sports are at IMG? I think there's 10 now. We just started volleyball.
My goodness.
Yeah, men's and women's volleyball. We just started. We're going to add wrestling. They don't have wrestling, but it was started as a tennis academy. So the tennis is huge, soccer's huge, football, basketball. Lacrosse. Yeah. So track and field is big there too. And then they just launched softball last year. So
and you actually stay on campus.
Yep, it's a boarding school. 40% are international student athletes, so they'll come from all over the world, and they train. But it's an accredited high school as well, so you get your high school diploma.
They pay in dollars, not crypto yet, right?
Right. It is dollars so far.
Okay, David, you've got your last question.
All right. And what legacy do you hope to leave in the volleyball world, not just through competition, but through mentorship, education, and elevating the next generation?
Oh, legacy is such a an important word, and I don't know if I'm there yet, but actually, volleyball was the vessel, that brought me to where I'm at today. It got me through, education. I have 2 degrees because of volleyball. But I want to reach any sport. I was a 4-sport athlete in high school. I didn't get pigeonholed. My coaches worked together, so 4-sport athlete in high school, but I also was in band, and I was a math team, and I was on the yearbook staff. So I think my parents had a great deal on that, and they're like, try everything. You don't have to decide today what you want to be. But I also think that a lot of people in the world can try to pigeonhole you with what they feel that you should be. So I want to help the next generation be well-rounded, think, measure twice, cut once type of thing. So do your research. And then I dabbled in blogging a few years ago, and it was titled Coach Sue, and SUE was support, uplift, and empower. So I think if there's something, a legacy can go on, I'll be Coach Sue for blogging for a while.
Okay, well, you can use your AI to help you so that you've got more than 24 hours in the day.
It's true. And we were talking, I do need an assistant, so it'll be perfect.
Okay, David, I know you have one other question, but I'm going to ask one before that.
Okay.
Could you talk a little bit about what your role is now?
Sure.
With NSCA, because I want the viewers to know that you came in, there was very little volleyball going on.
Yeah.
Then there was a big expansion, not just in volleyball, but for most of our viewers, they're interested in volleyball, but they have sisters and brothers that aren't. But now you're in a completely different role,
department,
although you're assisting all of those athletes and families. What is that role, and what is it that you actually do?
Ooh, that's a good question too, because I have my hands in a lot of different things, right? So I started as a volleyball recruiting coach, working with the families one-on-one. There was 4 of us, and now there's 12 of that, 12 of the same people. So in whatever 10 years, we have quadrupled in size there, or tripled in size. But now I work with our partnerships. So USA Volleyball is a partner, ABCA, AAU is a partner, and we just merged. We acquired Sports Recruits. So Sports Recruits has a great club and high school platform. We have this individual one-on-one recruiting help with our recruiting coaches. And then we have IMG Academy down in Florida. So there's like a lot of things working together. And IMG Academy Plus is the mental performance and nutrition training. So all of these great resources, I help get out into the world of sports. And NCSA services 31 different sports, from rowing to football, from field hockey to soccer, right? So it's just it's a great experience to go from what I know in volleyball to expand it to all platforms.
And would you say, the final one, and then David's got one last question, would you say your experience as an athlete at a high level has really helped you adapt yourself to working with other sports because of your background?
Yeah, 100%. Anything, even so, playing other sports too helps, because maybe you're the star of the volleyball team, but you're a role player on the basketball team. Or I did track and field, so it's a very individual sport, right? It's just you and the high jump bar, so get over it. But I think all those different experiences help you work with other team members or coworkers. But also, I'm an assistant coach to my boss at times, so it's like you're helping each other and having that experience as an athlete and as a former coach. But I know, I would say 80%, if not more, of our employees at NCSA and IMG are former athletes in one aspect or another. That 80% might be low. It's probably 90%.
All right, David, your last question.
All right. Well, Sue, thank you for sharing your incredible volleyball journey, and your reflections from the United States Olympic and Paralympic Hall of Fame experience. To close, what advice would you give to aspiring coaches about finding mentors and building their coaching philosophy with purpose and passion, so they can create meaningful, long-lasting programs that truly empower young athletes?
Yeah, this is sometimes mentors like Ruth and Brenda, they just kind of stumble into your life, and you don't really know that they're mentors until you're like kind of reflecting on it. But I do think like it's so important, I think, to reflect and to know what Ruth and Coach Brenda have gone on before me, and know the history of their struggles, and the path that they have laid for us. And then that makes, a little bit on my shoulders here to help the next generation to at least remember that too. But I think as mentors and just having someone to bounce ideas off of or to stretch your imagination sometimes, Coach Ruth is very good at that. The sky's the limit sometimes, and a mentor can bring that out in you.
I think I'm going to be putting a heavier weight on your shoulders, but
oh geez.
hey, special thank you to our co-host David and to the 45 GoKIds youth sports skills trainers who continue to make a lasting impact in the world of youth sports. Their dedication and passion are helping shape the next generation, one athlete at a time. If you know somebody teaching kids ages 10 and under, send them our way to the 24/7 virtual gym at www.rnnsportsgym.com. They can explore the wide range of educational videos, and by becoming a member, gain access to our exclusive RNN Sports Gym private Facebook. So remember to like, share our public pages on Facebook, Instagram, and X with friends, teachers, kids, and youth sports. Don't miss our monthly chat box on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, available pre-recorded on our private RNN Sports Gym Facebook page. We look forward to seeing you on September 10th for the next In the Know series with a surprise guest. And I want to thank both of you, especially Sue, for coming back on and also accepting to be part of Flo's induction into the Hall of Fame and being one of those 4 volleyball players and the first indoor volleyball player, even though Misty and Carrie both played indoor in collegiate, but the first female indoor. To think the honor, and now it's like the Washington Post person said to me, he said, I was surprised that there's been so much interest in the story that I wrote. And I think that these are the things that help kind of continue the history. So David, I kind of laid it on Sue that she now needs to continue Flo's legacy here, and I don't know if she accepted or not, but I think that she might feel a little pressure that she's going to always respect that legacy.
Yeah, no pressure. Like I said, Ruth, no pressure, and it's an honor to be able to keep it going. So,
all right. Well, thank you very much, both of you. David, again, thanks for taking your time out of, camp and school and training and all that. And Sue, I'm sure we'll be catching up.
Absolutely. Good to see you again, David.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming on.